Oof. How you doing? Hey, chats. Oh boy, what a day. Hey, what I wanted to talk about today was service. The reason this came up, somebody was asking me the other day, how often should I get my watch service? And I told them whenever it broke, whenever it quit running or it was running super slow or super fast, or some. In other words, when did it need it? So, anyways, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Hey, neighbor, how you doing? Looking like we're gonna have a nice day today. I hope. Well, I tell you, I sort of got the notice up there at the last minute. So, anyway, Alexander, how often do you have your watch service, or what's in your? How often do you plan on having it serviced? By the way, too, somebody was saying, "How come you don't tell us what kind of watch you're wearing?" Okay, I will. This is the Van Cleef and Arpels RDC et Erdailleur. Okay, that means in French. That means time here and time elsewhere. You can't see it very well the way they have this thing set up. Anyway, hey, 911 Euro, how's it going? How are things in Winter Park? Jose, good to see you. If it works, don't touch it. That's if it's keeping good time. Now, if it really gets off of having terrible time, yeah, that's fine. A friend of mine just got a notice that his watch will be due. I mean, his watch really needs service. It's sort of stopped running. In fact, they said, judging, they looked at it. He sent it into him, and they said it'll be about $111, $1,100. Yikes! 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 Talk about the Haraj regulation tech. I'll tell you, talking timepieces. That Orage thing is really very interesting. I like what they do. You basically, I don't know if you've seen it, but they got this little gizmo, and you put it in the side, and then you can make it go faster or slower. That is very nice. Hey, Brian, good to see you. Servicing too soon is almost as bad as servicing too late. How's that? Other than the financial strain on it, how does that work? Talking timepieces. Oh, this is a resonance motor. Oh, no motor. Interesting. Okay. Hi, Michael. How you doing? Aren't you leaving for Janita? Yeah, I am. I'm dressed. I'm all ready to go. I got a few other things I got to handle ahead of time, but yeah, I'm out the door soon enough. Every time you open up a piece, yeah, I know that worries me too, especially if I'm doing it myself. But if you're careful, which is nobody is, I have these things under all these little sealed, I don't know, jar bells, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you got a point there. Um, if I have a good watch and it needs service, I'll send it in and sort of bear the brunt of the cost. But I don't know. I tell you what, I had my Pigeon serviced, my Sylvain, and it came back, and very quickly it started getting out of whack again. And so I took it to the guy to the boutique in New York and talked to William, who's the sort of, even though he's not the manager, he seems to run the place, or he's sort of the consistent FP Journe guy in New York City. Anyway, he said it's he said probably magnetization. What? It was running slowly. He said, no, this is one thing I did learn. Magnetization has three effects, bad effects. One, it can make your watch run too fast. This is spring getting, and so it's shortened a little, and so it runs faster, or somehow it runs slower, or it stops. So if any one of those three things happen, noticeably so, it may be magnetization. So they've got some super demag at the FP Journe shop, and they fixed it for me. They didn't charge me anything. They said, why don't you drop it off here like in late morning and pick it up in the afternoon, and that's what I did. It was fine, but then it went back again, and so I don't know. I guess it must have been a couple of years later because sort of a big touch for getting that thing serviced. So I sent it in. I told them, I said, this thing keeps getting magnetized. I said, is there anything you could do it? My hint was, why don't you put in a Strawman hairspring or something that's a little better at that? And they did, apparently, because that thing's been perfect ever since. So, like I said, there was a real problem with it. Thanks, Michael. No ostrich steps on the way back. I'm taking nothing. I tell you, I talked to a guy who, Michael Margolis, Michael, he's the U.S. rep for Shopek and some other ones. And I asked him, I said, how do you deal with multiple watches coming back from Switzerland? He says, just take one on your wrist. That's it. He said, no more than one. And so that's why I'm taking this is my dual time. You can't see it. It's sort of a cool watch. It's got two jumping hours for different time zones. And so I've got one on New York time and the other one on Geneva time. So it's 8 a.m. here, and according to this, it's 2 p.m. in Geneva, or CET. That's what the cool kids say. Hey, it's CET, Central European Time. I use my time grapher as a kind of wear indicator. Yeah, same here. If the amplitude goes down and the beat error pops up, off it goes. Yeah, those things, I use that too. I'll tell you though, on some of my watches that I have for the purpose, I love to practice playing watchmaker, and I'll take the back off and get my toothpick out and push the old the regulator back and forth. I've been able to do it. I made a watch for my grandson. That thing is better regulated than anything I have, just by using the old toothpick until I got it just right. Of course, it was my imported parts. Hi, Turtle Knight. Silicon hairsprings can fix that. They can. Exactly. That's how come they put them in there instead of getting good ones like Strawman. Yeah, they did that. It's a lot cheaper, and you can't adjust your watch. I mean, you can't adjust anything on that unless you want to mess with the weights around the free sprung balance wheel. But each to his own. Hi, Art. How you doing? Watches, nope. But for other jewelry, gets a pass. Well, sounds like they both get a pass. Hi, Simmy, Junior. Good morning, Junior. Oh, anyway, I've come to the conclusion, if it works, I'm happy. If it's a little fast or a little slow, it depends on the watch. Some I don't mind, I'll pop off the back. And you know what I don't like? Let me ask you guys a question. You know, when you take the back off a watch, the usually okay, on this watch, mm, it's got those little screws, uh, right around it, and you just unscrew those little screws and take the back off. The kind I don't like are the pop-off ones, because the pop-off ones seem not to want to pop off. They just sort of, I've got this case knife, I've got all this remover gizmo, and still have trouble with those things. Um, there's a, and I have a great thing for putting the back on a case, but anybody know any good tricks for taking them off other than taking them down to your local watchmaker and say, "Hey, would you mind taking the back off of my watch?" Anyway, yeah. Oh, hey, I got something for cleaning. Yeah, I realized I got one of those shake and bake things. You put some kind of water and some cleaner, and it vibrates it. I don't know what the official name is, but I got one of those. But then I realized I'm not going to put an expensive watch in there with, especially one of gold. I'll put my old silver ones in there and hope and pray that they're waterproof. A better thing is take the movement out and put them in the thing. So now I'm wondering, what do I do with this thing? A good blunt knife. Well, I've got a really good. I've tried everything. I think, how about this, talking timepieces? How about a nice blunt skill? There's some trick to it, but I've taken them off before, but a lot of times I just, hey, Abdul, good morning. How you doing? Yeah, same here, man. Keep them out of water. The divers they have. This guy I was at the bank the other day, and I was talking to this guy. He had this beautiful Omega, great big old sucker, and we were talking about it, and he was talking about the diver functionality of it. It's got a, a release valve, a helium release valve on it. And I told him, I said, I wouldn't take one of those into the water. I wouldn't take a Submariner in the water. I just wouldn't. I mean, here you got these $1,000 plus watches. You go to a dive shop, they don't have those kinds of divers there. I agree. Keep them out of the water. I think the wettest mine'll ever get, and they can handle this, is when I wash my hands. Get them all. I get it, the rest of me wet, but not my watch. Okay. Hey, Damon, how you doing? I waited 37 years to service my date just. Boy, I tell you, I heard that Rolex had a long, long time getting their stuff done. 37 years, Junior. My date just is running also on point since I serviced it in 2013. My Explorer 2, on the other hand, seems to need a service after 5 years now. I shower in my OP date regularly. Art, I'm glad you do. You both get a shower that way. I don't. There's not a single watch I'd take in the shower with me. I just don't like the idea of why. I mean, my watch doesn't need it doesn't need a shower, but it needs cleaning. The thing I do though, I use these cloth. I use them a lot to keep it nice, keep it looking good. and that works pretty well. There are all kinds of different theories on how you handle gold. Steel, I don't worry about. Gold, I don't want to mess up my gold watch for service. I had I had my when I first time I took in my FP Joint chronometer surveying the platinum. They said, "Would you like your watch polished?" I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" It was $500 to publish, $500 extra to polish platinum. So the next time I sent it in, I said, "Would you like your watch polished?" I said, "Never mind, but just take what's left of my soul and send me the watch back." They do a wonderful job. I'll tell you who else does a great job is Parmigiani. Parmigiani does really nice work. I like them. Um, Trying to think who else. Like I said, you know, locally, all of my local guys seem to have dried up. I've got to find a new local guy to do some certain simple thing. You know something? This is true with all the guys who have Larique watches. There's a video that Jean-Marc Viderec did. All of the Larique watches have what's called an Agon pit regulator. And this is a special kind of regulator that you use with Agonor movements. Um, the they have these screws, and you unscrew one, and then you turn a thing, and then you screw it back up, and then you test it. It's sort of like moving a regulator arm, but it's different. And so you screw it a little, and you do that, and then you tighten it back up, and you test it again. One's for the speed, and the other one's for the beat. And I haven't touched it yet. But the thing is that the local watchmakers don't know how. And so we have a video. If I ever have that kind of work done, and let me tell you why it's worth it. It takes a long time to send it into Agonor and have them, do anything on it and send it back. I'd rather just take it in and say, "Here, guys, here's a video. Watch this video, and I'll show you how to regulate it." Anyway, hey, Kaz, how you doing? Okay, 9/11. No way. His tutor Pelagos doesn't want to go into the shower. I wouldn't take him anywhere. My Santos XL doesn't even have a gasket. Yikes. Yeah, that's another reason not to open it up. You can mungle up the gasket because have you ever taken a back off and the old gasket tears apart? Because sometimes the gaskets are simply made of what amounts to a fancy type of cardboard that they put in there. It's I don't want to say asbestos, but something other than just regular cardboard that they use. Sometimes it may be regular cardboard. And so if you take the back off, you can see the old thing pulling all that stuff out. Not something that not something I like. I wear a lot of watches with 100 meters of watch resistance. I never had any issues until now. I shower without a watch. I don't do. What do you guys have to go? What are you, ducks? Nobody has to go into the water with a really expensive watch. I don't care if they call them divers or not, or if they have what do they call, perpetual oyster or oyster perpetual. Rolex is so proud of. They had that poor girl swim across the channel with her thing around her neck. She almost made it, and then they had to fish her out. I, it just, it's, they're so proud of that thing. Like, okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. I was a scuba diver for years, never went deeper than 200 feet. Ah, I like snorkeling. I used to snorkel a lot. When I was, teaching at the University of Florida, there was a place not too far from where I lived called Blue Springs, and Blue Springs was fed by this artesian well, I think, and then they had a little, stream that went down from the I guess, the blue whatever they call it, blue and Blue Spring, and then it'd go down from the springs down to a river. So I'd go snorkeling down that river. The water was really clear, really beautiful. I don't think I ever took my watch on one of those outings. No shower with my Pelagos, only, because all the soap and skin oil can get cut up. Yeah, you know, what it was rub-a-dub-dub, and, clean behind your ears and and next to the bezel. Oh, wow, you had your 9/11, you had your you're a Florida Gator. Way to go. Yeah, I'm still whenever, it it's easy to get attached to a football team. I was a Gator fan. Uh, yeah, that's some boy, Gators. Phew, just like football, SEC football is like a religion. When I was a kid, my dad was stationed at teaching Air Force ROTC in this little town in Mississippi. And so I became a Mississippi State sort of redneck tech. Haven't been back there for a while. Hey, James Gary Hill, how you doing? Good morning to you. I got a Seiko turtle. Ooh, I like the Seiko turtles. ISO certified. Hi, Jose 0990. I bought a Parmigiani band used, but spent a long time without use and seems to have issues with lubrication. I think waiting to hear from him. You know something? My bracelet on my Kalpa, one of the best bracelets I've ever had on a Parmigiani Fluier Kalpa XL, and it has it's great. I think I don't know what kind of lubricant. Does anybody have? I have the only other bracelet I have now because I gave my a friend of mine has my Parmigiani now, but the only bracelet I have is a Ming bracelet, and that thing is fantastic. They're expensive. I didn't realize doggone thing cost me an arm and a leg. Okay, a Casio G-Shock. All right, those are there you go. You wanna go swimming. That's the thing to take. Even floating thumb agrees with that. Get a Casio, get a G-Shock. Hey, Truman, I saw Agate Pit regulator, which can regulate the length of the hairspring. Must look like a nightmare for a common watchmaker. Well, it probably does. I mean, Truman, you go to a regular watchmaker, most of them, if it's not a Solita or an ETA, they're not too happy about that. And they'll say things like, "Oh, I can't get the part." Well, usually it doesn't need a part; it just needs a little adjustment. But you're right. I'm sure if they saw that, they wouldn't know whether to blow their nose or go blind if they saw an Agate Pit regulator. But Agate Pit regulators are really cool. Yeah, you can do anything with a G-Shock. You can go to your, on mud wrestling night too. That would be take your G-Shock with you. On whack-a-mole, take your G-Shock. I have bracelets on both of my Parmigianis. They're fantastic. Yeah, that's been my experience too. Um, I like that in my Ming. I really like Ming. On my old overseas, the first model they had, the overseas, those things they had the bracelet, the metal bracelet on those, they would always pop open. And so you just got used to it. Yeah, you're going along and it pops open. You don't even think, you just hit it, pop back. Those those were not they were nice bracelets, but they didn't stay. Their clasp wasn't very good. Do you think it's worth the extra money to send a watch to the manufacturer? Well, in my case, they're an official service center by are certified watchmaker by Rolex, or you send it to a service center by FP Journe or Parmigiani or Urban Jurgensen, or most of the watches I have, I wouldn't send them to anybody else unless I had some really good evidence that the watchmaker had some experience in it. Sometimes you get a guy who worked for, they have the Patek Philippe sort of a center in Rockefeller Center in New York City. And when I took my Calatrava, I took it in simply to get gold spring bars, because I was told that if you have a gold watch and you have metal spring bars, they'll eat through the little hole there, in time. And so I said, you're better with gold on gold. And so I went there to get one. That thing was a trip. I love going to the Patek Philippe service center. There was this gal that we met. I think we went to the parts. We were going to this really fancy office and everything, and it had all this chocolate, all this Swiss chocolate. So she said, "Would you like a chocolate?" So Fernando and I went and sure, we have a chocolate, and had another one. As soon as we took a chocolate, she put it. I've never met anybody. So what's the term? The OCD or whatever it is. But she was very, very dedicated, very focused worker. And I asked her, I said, when you take the back off of it, I asked them if they would take the back off, take a picture of the movement, because they wanted to see where the regulator was on that. They were really nice about it. Had a good time. Tell you though, if you've got a gold watch and you got metal, you got steel spring bars, think about getting gold ones. The Patek Philippe ones were about $60 a piece, and this must have been close to over 10 years ago. So it's been a while. I'm not a big fan of bracelets. Nah. Yeah, I'm not either. But man, I tell you, if you have a watch being shipped overseas, either to you or from you with a metal bracelet, no problems. So, but you could have a strap out of skunk and it jack you up on something. Hey, Damon. My wife's Van Cleef is hard to wind. It was dropped on a winding stem, but the service cost would be astronomical. So we're just living with it. What kind of watch does she have, Damon? Because there might be another way to deal with it. I have my Van Cleef and Arpels. I know the movement maker and everything else about them, and I wouldn't take it to Van Cleef and Arpels. I'd take it to Agenor, because I know that they made the movement from scratch. The problem is, though, it's not easy to wind. This is strange, though. The way you wind it is you wind it counterclockwise. So you have to wind it backwards. I don't know why they did that, but they had to make it really thin as part of the demand from Van Cleef and Arpels. When the original one was the original Monsieur Arpels, or Pierre Arpels, Monsieur Van Cleef and Arpels, was made in 1949. He wanted it thin and time only. They put in a Piaget movement originally in the original one. And so they wanted Agenor they said, hey, we want you to take this one and with a Piaget movement, and we want you to add uh, dual time and what else they want? Automatic. They want dual time automatic, but keep it just as thin. you know? So what they did is that they said, well, you better forget about the Piaget right now. We're going to have to start from scratch. And that's what they did. And so you ended up with it's got a very small platinum rotor, one of the mini rotors. It's a really interesting watch. And I've got to practice how to say heure d'ici and heure d'ailleurs, French for time here and time elsewhere. Whoa. Okay. Rancher's not here, but I am out of time. And today I've got a boogie woogie. Let me pick up these last ones. One good thing about AP is they use screws instead of spring bars to secure. Yeah, that can have its own issues. But I think this has that kind of thing. It doesn't have spring bars. It's got two bar lugs on the top, one on the top and one on the bottoms. That's another issue I don't even want to get into. Valvia Man, Archer, the Canadian watchmaker and engineer, uses a scalpel to get tough backs off. Don't lever press hard all around. Be sure to count your fingers afterwards. Yeah. By the way, Valvia Man, I changed the microphone on the on my videos. Let me know if it's still bad. Okay, Jose. Bill Abdul. Hey, Abdul, we're one now. The issue is with the watch itself. Only works when fully wound. After some time, it just stops working. In Spain, they only have only one Parmesan, so they're sending the watch Parmigiani. You're going to have to do that if that's the situation. It shouldn't stop after 5 or 10 minutes. I've had watches with that problem, and you have to have them done. My Fortis also has a screw system to secure the strap. I lost a screw once, but Fortis sent me one after a couple of weeks. I said, that's not so bad. It's an extraordinary dials. Thank you, Damon. Okay, guys, got to run. Thanks, neighbor. I'll give my regards to Switzerland for everybody, and I'll bring chocolate. Take care.